Let's turn to some new developments in this Mississippi welfare spending scandal. This has actually been a story that's been percolating really for months now, but it's some new developments. We got new text messages that were filed in court documents this week, and they were reported out by our friends at Mississippi Today. And they reveal that the former Mississippi governor, Phil Bryant, pushed to get NFL star Brett Favre state funds set aside for welfare recipients in order to build a volleyball stadium at the alma mater of Favre and Bryant's of the University of Southern Mississippi. Earlier this month, NBC News reported that Favre had received over $1 million that were diverted from an account that was supposed to be focused on welfare money since 2017 to make speeches that he never actually delivered. Favre has paid back that money, or at least most of it, not the interest on it, but the principal amount of money. But now texts between Favre and a nonprofit founder named Nancy New, who is facing charges herself related to millions of dollars of welfare fraud, show that he received help from the governor to request some of that money. In one text to New, this is what Favre wrote, quote, "He had said to me just a second ago that he had seen it, but hint, hint, that you need to reword it to get it accepted." New replied, "Reword? Wonder what he means. I am making a call now to get a little more information from someone on the inside, and we'll get back with you." And then in a text to New from 2019, Bryant admitted to helping Favre directly. Quote, "Just left Brett Favre. Can we help him with his project? We should meet soon to see how I can make sure we keep your projects on course." Favre had previously denied that he knew about the use of welfare funds for this project, but these texts reveal he was worried about how the funding would look. He then texted New the following: "If you were to pay me, is there any way the media can find out where it came from and how much?" New responded, "No, we never had that information publicized, at least until now." Joined now by Anna Wolfe, a reporter at Mississippi Today. So, Anna, this feels as if, in some ways, Brett Favre, while being at the center, is the shiny metal object on a scandal that is much more nefarious inside a Mississippi government, and it begins with the use of money that was supposed to be for welfare recipients. Walk me through what this money was supposed to do.
Sure. So this is money from a fund called Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, which most people know as the welfare check. This is cash assistance to very poor families in Mississippi. And, you know, the scandal has been unfolding for over 2 years. And all along the way, you know, when we're uncovering how $77 million was either stolen or misspent, the major players in the scheme, namely former Governor Phil Bryant and Brett Favre, have sort of tried to make excuses for their involvement. As you said, Brett Favre says he doesn't know that it was welfare money that he was using for this project. But, you know, the more that we've gotten information that's come out, the more we've been able to piece together that this was an orchestrated scheme to take money from a federal fund that's supposed to serve the poorest residents in the poorest state in the country and use it for whatever they wanted.
And correct me if I'm wrong, this was a time when there were more families applying for welfare funds, and the state was denying these folks, claiming they didn't have the funds for it?
They were making it very hard for families to be eligible for this money. So it was an orchestrated attempt to push money away from families by saying you don't qualify for it, you either make too much money or your family situation is not eligible for this. And by my last count, in Mississippi, a state of 3 million people with the highest poverty rate in the nation, just about 200 adults receive welfare in Mississippi. This is a federal account.
This was why the FBI is involved. I assume justice is involved at this point, right? We understand that I think Favre has met with the FBI. Is it the former governor that has the most on the line here, Phil Bryant? I mean, if this is a misuse of federal funds, we're not talking a fine and a slap on the wrist. We're talking jail time.
Right. And we do know that the FBI has been investigating this scandal for the last 2 years. We do know that the Biden administration just appointed a new U.S. attorney for this area, and he will inherit this welfare investigation. And so I think the text messages are significant. They show kind of the mindset of the people involved, and they get closer to demonstrating how these players really knew what they were doing. They knew how to tweak the regulations and tweak their proposals so that they could use this money in this way that was clearly not how it was intended to be used.
The current governor got himself entangled in this story because he seemed to dismiss one of the investigators here? Walk me through that.
Right. So the Department of Human Services, this is the agency where the money came from, filed a civil suit to try to recoup the money back from several people and organizations that received this money. I mean, we're talking about $77 million, not, $1 million to Brett Favre. In that civil suit, the attorney who was hired wanted to include the volleyball stadium in the suit and wanted to include the University of Southern Mississippi, but the current governor's office did not let him include the volleyball scheme as part of his complaint, made him take it out. And then over the summer, when he tried to subpoena the Athletic Foundation for communication that would have gotten to the bottom of who was responsible for this scheme to use welfare money in this way, he was abruptly removed from the case. I mean,
it obviously... it screams cover up. What are they covering up? And I guess that's a question we're all trying to get to the bottom of.
Yeah, I mean, these text messages show just how involved the former governor and Brett Favre were in this scheme. And what's important about this particular scheme is that it has already resulted in a criminal conviction for someone else in this case. So the nonprofit owner that you were talking about, her son actually pleaded guilty to defrauding the government. This is serious felony, serious prison time for, when he converted this welfare money to the volleyball stadium, using trickery, really, because they were saying that the volleyball stadium was going to be used by the nonprofit to serve people in poverty, which most people looking at that proposal could tell, is pretty thin.
It's kind of a stretch. Let me ask you this. If this happened in Washington, there'd be a congressional committee wanting to investigate. Anything in the Mississippi legislature, has this awoken them at all?
That's a really good question. The Mississippi legislature, I don't think, has held a single committee hearing. They hadn't really passed any legislation to address this issue or to, compel the Department of Human Services to use this money in better ways to help impoverished families. It's really kind of gone unnoticed by, our state leaders.
Well, I have to tell you, I think a lot of Mississippi wouldn't know about this at all if it wasn't for Mississippi Today. I'm a subscriber. I hope, folks, if you don't know about it, go look at Mississippi Today. This is independent news organization doing some stuff that isn't being done by enough news organizations down there. Anna Wolfe, really appreciate your reporting and the work of Mississippi Today.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.